Hello, new interns. Thank you so much for reading this article, watching this interview with us. Today we have Giselle Hart. She's been kind enough to spend some time doing this. I really appreciate it. So first things first, Giselle, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. That's fantastic. Um, so we'll get started with we're going to ramp up our questions, some easier ones. Giselle, can you tell us what school did you graduate from and what was your major or your program?
Yes, so I went to Point Loma Nazarene University and I graduated with a degree in marketing.
Fantastic. And congratulations, by the way, for
Thank you.
graduating. Hoping to do the same within 4 years. Uh, so if someone were to ask you just, at a party or somewhere else, what's your job title and what is your role? Kind of briefly, could you share those things with us?
Yes, so I got hired as a marketing intern originally on the demand generation side. And sorry, there's a plane going over. I don't know if you can hear that or if it's
No
picking
worries.
it up.
What was it? It was something side on the something side.
On the demand generation side.
Got it.
So I originally was hired for that, but then they switched me over to the communication side because they thought that was a better fit for me. So I became a communications intern, not
Nice.
officially, but that's what they call me internally. And so I mainly write newsletters, write SEO blogs, edit blogs, and take care of the content like social media.
That's awesome. That's actually really cool. That's something I love to get into. Could you sort of briefly also explain kind of what your company is and what are they? Super general.
Yeah, so Groove is a seller productivity platform. We sit on top of Salesforce and help sellers basically expedite all of their processes. So it automates a lot of things like logging activities, it records calls and things like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Now we're going to try and figure out kind of how you got into that position. So,
Mhm.
did you apply on a job site or was there a referral from a friend or kind of how did you fall into this position?
Yeah, so I was looking up other internship opportunities, kind of looking to take my next step after graduating and transitioning into a full-time role. So I was just looking on LinkedIn and I saw the role, and I had recently been hanging out with a friend or a new friend that I just met. And she was telling me about the company that she works for, and I saw it on there that they were hiring for a marketing intern. So I reached out
Nice.
to her and just like asked more about the position and if it was fit for more of like a graduate and like transitioning into a full-time role, and just asked some questions about it. And then she said that I should definitely apply, and she referred me. So I applied on LinkedIn. I think it took me to the website, and then I applied on there. And then my friend also sent my resume to the VP of marketing. So
That's awesome. You networked, but
yeah.
clearly did earn it. And so they were wanting interns. It just so happened that you were able to find it through a friend as well to support your application.
Yeah, so they were originally only hiring for the demand generation. So the other two interns that were hired with me are the other two marketing interns. They do that still. So they were not hiring on the communications team originally, but because of my experience, they decided that I would be beneficial on that team, and I could have done the other team, but they said it would be a waste of my talent. So they just
Yeah,
put me on the other team.
they saw something. Yeah. When so in this period of searching, how many were you applying to a high volume of places and kind of what were some things that you were typing into the search bar, like literally, and were
Yeah.
you using Indeed or what were you using?
Yeah, I was mainly looking on LinkedIn, and I was trying to look for companies that I knew someone at so that I had people connected with, mainly because I find that that's the easiest way to get connected to a company, or if you have a previous relation to it. But I was searching marketing coordinator or marketing internship. I wanted like an entry level position, but I figured that with like a lot of companies, they'll say like you need like a few years of experience even for an entry role. So I wanted to explore other areas of marketing as well, which is why I went for the other part of the role. And then they
Yeah.
ended up putting me in something that I would be more adept at anyway, which is kind of funny. But I wanted to kind of expand my experience. So I looked for marketing coordinator, marketing internship, um, anything under marketing that was remote or in San Diego.
Right. Oh, that's a beautiful area. That's beside. Um, would you say you applied to in this because people apply in different enrolling sessions before, up till you got this role, would you say that you applied to over or under 50? If you were to have like a figure kind of.
I think I probably applied to like 20 places before I realized my friend
Wow,
worked with this one and I could, yeah. So
that's
it
incredible.
wasn't that many. I know a lot of people definitely exhaust their resources more. I probably would have if I didn't know her.
That's a high batting average. My goodness. Congrats for that. Okay, so were there kind of, once they, saw your application, said, yes, we're interested, were there, initial phone calls, interviews? What was sort of the onboarding process before you got the like stamp of approval? Yes, you're hired.
Yeah, so they had one of their HR directors called me and did a brief interview just about me in general. And then she passed me on to who would have been my direct manager if I worked under demand generation. So I did an interview with her. And then because the HR director actually thought I would be a really good fit, so she just expedited it to the VP of marketing as well. And they also knew my friend. So they were like, let's just go with it. So I did both of my who would have been my direct manager and the VP of marketing interviews like within the same hour. I just did it back to back. And then I found out like I think literally the next day or maybe within like later that day, they had told the HR director to call me back and tell me that I had an offer.
That's crazy. And so from the moment you sent the application through whatever portal you used, how long would you say it took before you got the yes on that day?
I think it was a week, I think. So I think I sent it in and then it might have been like a Thursday or Friday. So they didn't get back to me until the next week. And then once I got the call, it was like 3 days total, I feel like.
That is probably one of the most ideal like
Yeah.
paths I've heard anyone take.
Yeah, it
Wow,
was super nice.
that is nice. So also something that's really important is, part of onboarding, I'm sure they asked you about what's your previous experience. I kind of want to know, like, from your point of view, what do you think earned you this position based on, their questions and what they wanted to hear?
Yes. So I our second semester, senior year, I knew I had a really big passion for writing, but I hadn't really like dove into it in my coursework enough. So I wanted like to build up a portfolio. So I started freelance copywriting a little bit and I worked for a few different companies. And in doing that, I wrote a few SEO content blogs and articles and for this one company, and one of them got published in Forbes. So I think that when I applied to this position, they were like, whoa, that's like huge. And so that like that being on my portfolio, the VP of marketing, like the first thing she said was like, that's crazy. Like we're always trying to get into Forbes and like get published in higher places. So I think that was it. But I think they like my other job experience was qualifying as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Can you break down, I'm not familiar, or for some people who aren't, can you mention what is copywriting, and then also what is, you mentioned specifically you do SEO writing. Can you break that down
Yeah,
for us?
of course. So for copywriting, what I did specifically was that I just kind of went into different brands' websites and went into their social media and they sent me like prompts. So I just rewrote the brand voice for
Mm,
them to make it more effective, more productive, and more like just simple.
yeah,
And then, but I know copywriting can take a lot of different forms, but for SEO specifically, it's search engine optimization. So it's creating content to drive people to your website or to drive people to your product or a certain web page. So anything that has keywords, like if you Google like jacket or something and you have jackets at your company, you want to be like the top recommendation. So you could just push a bunch of content on your website that points back to that in hopes of upping your Google search. So
right,
that's
right.
yeah.
That was a good explanation, actually. Thank you. So if you were to kind of give, off the top of your head, a percentage between what earned you the position, clearly your experience, but then also you as a person, your personality coming out through the interviews, would you say it was kind of 50-50 or more? They hired you 80% for your experience. What would you say if you had to kind of guess?
Um, I think I think it was like a 50-50. I think knowing that they already knew my friend and that I would probably be similar to her, I think they felt more comfortable in the first two interviews I had with who would have been my direct manager and then the VP of marketing. I clicked with them really well. The my who would have been my direct manager, she lives in San Diego and is a similar age to me, so we just like hit it off right away. And then the VP of marketing, I think she thought I was pretty clever and witty, and that was a good indication of yeah.
Humor. Some
Yeah.
people don't, yeah, they're just too worked up and they don't gotta be loose.
Yeah, exactly.
So this next portion is going to be about your role specifically. Let me take a sip real quick. Okay. I want to know more about your position in particular. I'm going to start with kind of smaller questions like, so for instance, how many hours per week do you work, or is supposedly?
Yeah. So when I first started, I would say the first like 3 weeks, I started at the end of April, and it's now like almost halfway through August. So my first couple of weeks were about like 10 to 20 hours, I think. I was still in school, so they were very lenient with that. And
Nice.
then right when I finished school, I wanted to ramp up my hours as much as possible. So I was just asking everyone on the marketing team if they had any projects that I could help them on, like anything. So my hours went up a lot. And I think the most I've clocked so far is like a 40-hour work week, but usually it's like between 25 and 35.
That's a good, yeah, that's a good range to have work for. And was this explicitly started as a summer internship with the potential to roll over into full time, or is that kind of what this is?
Yeah, so they told me originally, or my friend told me that they were hiring interns with the intention of moving them into full-time positions.
Got it. That's always a nice spot to be in. And you said that you work with, or you were hired with two other marketing interns as like a cohort. Now you've split off. So I wanted to know how engaged are you with them, or are you all more kind of separate helping other groups?
Yeah, so we do work together on some things. I wish we could work together more, but it's just the nature of remote work. The whole company is remote, so we don't see each other as often. But we did just all go on a trip last week for the purpose of team bonding, and they graciously invited the interns as well, and they didn't really have to. So there's like 12 or 13 of us, I think, the marketing team. We all went to SLO and did some fun activities there and did team bonding and had meetings and stuff. So I got to like actually really connect with the other interns during that. But besides that, I don't really see them that much.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, that's all right. That sounds like a fun event. Skipping over some questions, this internship seems fun, especially because of that trip. Can you tell us, was that kind of one of the main perks of this role, going there? And you said SLO. I know what that is, but for people who don't, could you just, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I forget that people don't know what SLO County is. It's San Luis Obispo, Central Coast, California. So we went there originally to go on some wine tours, and then it got pushed back because of different feedback from HR. So we did not go on a wine tour, but it was it was very fun. It was nice to see everyone in person. I hadn't seen a lot of my team members before. And I'm sorry, what else did you ask about that? Just more about the trip?
Yeah, it was just about your trip. It was last week, right? And it was for
Yeah.
a couple of days or for a whole week?
Yeah, so we flew out from San Diego or me and my friend that we both live here. We flew out Monday, and then we flew back on Wednesday. So it was very short, but
that's awesome. Wow. I have high standards for whatever I get, and I gotta fly out. So now, would you say, in regards to your role, are you in more of a support role or a project-oriented role, or a mixture of both? How would you characterize it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I started as more of a support for my friend. Actually, she's now my direct manager. Technically, she's the social media and content associate. And then there's one more above her, the director of communications. So I was kind of just supporting both of them in their roles. And then I think it was like a month or two ago, they let me kind of just take the reins on social media altogether. So that's like my project that I run.
Okay.
And then I also help other people on the marketing team. If I don't have enough work one week from my two direct bosses, then I'll just reach out to everyone else and see if they need anything. So it's kind of both.
Great. Now we're at the heart of it. Um, Maybe we could start with the types of support. I want to go over kind of how you support certain people in their roles, and then of course the projects that you're working on. Could you kind of briefly describe what is the support you give, and then maybe if you want to give like one example to kind of clarify.
Yeah, so I feel like most of the support I do for everyone else is just like administrative tasks. Usually, it's like, oh, can you go through this list of contacts and then pick out the ones that we have in Salesforce already, or if there's a duplicate or something, like going through or like research or going to a webinar and taking notes for everyone. Those are mainly like the other little support tasks I do for the rest of the team. But
Okay,
yeah,
clerical. That's yeah.
yeah,
That's more hours.
yeah, exactly.
And then for your own projects, you said you're kind of you're doing your own something with social media. Could you
Yeah.
go in depth kind of on that and what areas you're in? What's that like?
Yeah, so specifically, I build out the content for each week based on our newsletter. So we basically repurpose our newsletter content, post it once or twice a day on LinkedIn, but we revert it and republish it and everything. And then if there's anything else that comes up, like if we win an award or if something else is newsworthy or like we just have a team go on an event, like we'll probably post about our trip this week. Um, then we post about that too. But I mainly plan out the content. And then run it by everyone. And then my other projects are whenever we get an SEO blog, and or I either write an SEO blog or we freelance out SEO blogs to get more content.
Okay.
And then I edit them and then optimize them and upload them to WordPress, our website generator. Yeah. My neighbors are about to start welding something.
No worries.
I don't know if you can hear that.
A few backyards away, this guy's like chainsawing every afternoon.
Yeah.
Right now. So.
But yeah, I mainly do social media, content creation, content mapping, and writing. Like I write part of the newsletter, I write part of the SEO blogs and stuff like that.
Okay, I want to try and break some of this up. So one part of it, one component is you have a big part with the link with groups LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. You have to post noteworthy things, and you're actually creating the posts, or at least a vast majority of the writing. And you have a newsletter. Who's that sent out to?
So we have a list of, I think it's about 25,000 people. It's like people in the industry. The whole point of the newsletter is to kind of, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah. If I cut off, I'll let you know.
Okay. But the main goal of it is to be thought leaders in the industry of like sales in general. That's the point. But you can also access it on our website. So it gets sent out, but it also just goes on our website as a blog post.
Sure. And then, but that's different from the independent SEO posts. Mm-hmm. Could you give me an example of one of your more major ones that you've done? Like how does the project start? Do they give you a topic? How do you?
Yeah, for the SEO.
Yeah, for one of those. That sounds really large, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I usually, if I do write one from start to finish, it's usually based on someone else's content. Like we have a few, like we would call them like thought leaders in in our company that just they post a lot of provocative thought content around like sales leadership. So I'll take their content and like kind of mix and mash them up and then write it in long form content, and then that'll be it. Or it'll be like tips for salespeople based on this aspect of our company. Like like I'll get a prompt usually. It's not just like me coming up with something.
Well, sure, but you're doing the legwork of bringing it together and making it like palatable for everyone. That's definitely. Yeah. I don't think people realize that actually takes a lot. That's really cool, Giselle. Thanks. I didn't know that you were going to be so involved in writing. I would love to stay in touch with you. You're a great contact to have.
Please do, yeah.
So let me look here. There's a few more things I wanted to ask, but that's a good picture of what you do, I'd say. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like the work in your role is easy, just at your level, or challenging, or all over the place, a mix of both?
I would say because I already have a writer's brain, I would say it's not the hardest thing in the world. It definitely takes a lot of research on my end because I came out of school with a marketing degree. I never studied any salespeople um,
Yeah,
tactics, I guess, or anything like that. So knowing the ins and outs of like Salesforce and using like our specific platform and talking from that tone of voice, I would say is the hardest thing, or talking to that persona. But I mean, I think I would say it's like a 5 out of 10 hardness.
okay.
I don't think it's the hardest thing in the world, but I think it takes time to learn it for sure.
And do you feel like you've been learning more in your role than you have in your academics, or is it different? Is that a bad comparison?
I would say my academics were very broad. You learn a lot of marketing principles and how I think they're more catered to like a vice president of marketing. Like if I was like tomorrow the VP of marketing at our company, I would know broadly where to go from there based on my studies. Obviously
Okay,
not on my experience, but I think
right.
what I'm learning that I did not learn is more tactical, like practical, what I actually do on the day to day. That the like business operations, pretty much.
Uh-huh. So it's pretty valuable either way, but it's
Yeah.
definitely experience in an industry role. The last couple of things are, if you have any quick advice for people who are applying to similar internships and maybe internships in general.
Yeah, okay. So I think if I went back and I was talking to myself going into my senior year, I would have started like blogging and looking for freelance copywriting opportunities sooner on. And that applies to like any specific field. Like if you are going into graphic design, I would say like seek out even unpaid experiences where you can just like analyze a brand and make content for them, or and like you never have to actually send it to the company or anything, but like just build up your own portfolio. I would say in general, build your portfolio and specialize in something. I think that's how you
Perfect.
stand out.
And are there some places that people could connect with you, or is there a preferred profile? I'm assuming LinkedIn, but you mentioned that you have a portfolio, some posts you've made. How can we reach you?
Yeah, I think everything's on LinkedIn. If I mean, I should publish my website more visibly on LinkedIn, but it's in there if you dig. Um, but yeah, on LinkedIn, I'm just Giselle Hart. What was it?
You say your own website, or it's just some of the
I it's
posts?
a portfolio. Yeah, it's just a portfolio. So it's all my work is on my LinkedIn.
Okay, well, maybe I didn't do enough digging, but if I can't find it, I'm gonna come for you and make you post that. Okay?
Okay.
That sounds really cool. But hey, Giselle, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be here again. Your answers were fantastic. I feel like I actually understand your role, and it's definitely different from a lot of the ones I've heard, that's exactly what we want. We want to have this collection of different marketing interns, and I know you mentioned you switched to kind of a different role, which is also cool to hear because maybe you start as a marketing intern, maybe you end up as a communications intern. You never know. So, Giselle, thank you so much. We're gonna end this. We're gonna wrap this up, and so thank you. Take care.
Sweet. Thank you.